Greetings, people of the world. Matthias Griffin back with you for our special continuation of Let's Play Final Fantasy XIV Live, as we are here in Ul'dah with our current Warrior of Light / Darkness, Shinji Ochikuri, for taking part in the 2020 edition of The Rising, which is down over here. So, this year, we get to see something that's actually quite visually impressive. And it's not just limited to the fireworks, as I can't stop myself from running when I let go of the controller, but you may notice that over here is this beautiful piece of artwork featuring the Sultana, as well as Pippin, as well as the Sultana's closest confidant, Papashan, and the 5 brothers of the Thaumaturgus Guild here in Ul'dah. Yeah, pay no attention to this guy who's crafting away and chose to do so in a very weird spot. But in any event, we are going to go ahead and start this edition of The Rising by speaking with the man responsible for this piece of art, Amikote known as Jebin-Tia. Let's go ahead and speak with him to take on our level 15 quest entitled Art of Glass. The centerpiece of this year's Rising festivities is a work of art courtesy of Jebin-Tia, who hopes to foster goodwill among the citizens of Ul'dah. Hello there. Would I be correct in assuming you've come to view my exhibition? Indeed I have. You see, I'm an artist by trade and my chosen medium is stained glass. While it's not the easiest thing to work with, the results are worth the considerable effort required. It's taken me a while to reach this point in my career, and this is actually my first public showing. I was wondering, if it's not too much of a bother, if I might give you a brief explanation of the subject matter? Please do. Then pray, my good fellow, cast your eyes at yonder pane. And so, 'twas the final days before the fall of Donumud, its inexorable approach foretelling our impending doom. Panic spread like wildfire while many in their desperation turned on the Sultanate. Looting and rioting broke out across Ul'dah. To quell the masses, Her Royal Majesty Nanamo Namo took to the streets with a guard consisting of only 7 subjects, for they alone had the courage to stand with their Sultana. There she addressed the rabble. Heed me, my beloved citizens. The realm lies upon the brink of the 7th Umbral Era, yet so long as we live we must not forget our compassion. Now is not the time to take from your neighbor, but to proffer him the hand of succor. She was determined not to let that city that the immortal flames are risking their lives to defend tear itself apart in their absence. Her words brought the people to their senses. It amazes me how much video game play I've seen so much embodies this year. They laid down their arms and set about healing the wounds they themselves had inflicted on Ul'dah. Thanks to Her Majesty's impassioned speech, those who returned from the battlefield found their home much as they had left it, a gleaming jewel in the desert. It seems all so long ago. To see the place today, you'd think that the people had entirely forgotten her words that day. The same hands that once proffered in succor now grasp greedily at every last coin, even if one's fellow man must go hungry. It's times like these that we must remind ourselves of the sacrifices of those who came before us, which is why the Rising Festival is of such profound importance. I draw inspiration from Her Majesty's deeds all those years ago, and through my work, perhaps others might do the same. Dear me, I better stop before I overcome with emotion. Now, in fact, matters to which I must yet attend, and if I'm not mistaken, you are an adventurer, yes? I've something you might be able to help me with, if you're willing. In addition to having my stained glass on display, it's been arranged that a wandering minstrel give a recital as part of the festivities. Yeah, we know who that is. I'm looking to gather as many spectators as possible, but I fear I'll struggle to cover the necessary ground by myself. Perhaps you could give me a hand? Yeah, we can definitely do that for you. 12 bless you, sir. I plan to hand out these flyers, and with the 2 of us, we'll be able to reach twice the number of people in the same span of time. And so he gives me a few. If you'd be so kind as to look for potential attendees around the steps of Thol, I'll head for the Sapphire Avenue Exchange. Let's meet there when you're done. And away he goes. So let's see if we can give our artisan the audience he's been looking for. So off we go. And it's faster for us to run down this way in order to get to our first person of interest. So we'll head on over this way. And when we do, we will be very quickly arriving at the first possible person who we might be able to interest. So, yeah, right over here, going around the fountain in this square of Ul'dah. You don't see us come here very often because it's not close to any particular Aetheryte. The closest one that it comes to is one for the Gladiators Guild. So let's start by speaking with this obviously affluent citizen. Yes? Yeah, hello there, sir. I'd like to give you something. Yeah, as he has a look at it. That does sound rather intriguing. If it's the same minstrel my associates have mentioned on occasion, I'd best go and see what all the fuss is about. I hear he's rather talented. Also, when did you snatch that turban from Lord Lolorito? He could probably have you hanged for that. So we'll run down to our next possible point of contact. Yeah, sadly the music for The Rising does not continue through this particular path, so let's go over to this noticeably dusty citizen in front of the Miners Guild. Got something you want taken up? Not at all, sir. In fact, I have something for you instead. And so he'll have a look at it. Can't say I'm much of an expert when it comes to music and fine art, but it ain't often a bloke like me gets a chance to sample the high life. I'd be a fool to miss it. And away he goes. And then we'll go to our next point of contact. Yeah, with all the people running around, it's just easier for me to walk over to the Weaver's Guild where this last person is. This eminently approachable citizen. May I help you? Indeed you can. I'd like to offer you an invite to a public art display, if you're so interested. Stained glass? Depicting the Sultana herself, no less. I've always been a loyal supporter of hers, and it would be remiss of me to pass up such an opportunity. I shall be sure to attend. And with that, we'll now make our way over to the Sapphire Avenue Exchange. And let's go ahead and look for Jaben. You know, out here in the middle of the marketplace. Come on. Yeah, don't be like that. All done. Much appreciated, but I'm afraid I've run into a bit of a problem. And what would that be? I was in the process of handing a flower to this gentleman when my friend Aston showed up out of the blue. As chance would have it, these two chaps are previously acquainted, though they do not appear to be on particularly good terms. Oh, great. So yeah, we got to intervene on this. But how am I supposed to pay you back if the amount keeps going up? If you've coughed up the money on the day we originally agreed, there won't be so much interest to pay. You've only got yourself to blame. But Austin, if your interest rates weren't so high, perhaps he'd been able to pay you back by now. I'm not saying you should wipe the slate clean, but surely you can come to a compromise? All I want for him is to honour our agreement. What's wrong with that? Besides, I've held up my side of the bargain, so why do I have to be the one to compromise? But let's say I give you the benefit of the doubt that you genuinely lack the means to pay me back. I'll grant you 1 week's extension, but if you still don't have the money by then, there'll be consequences. Only a week. Alright, you dumb vulture, you'll get your gill. Then I'll be rid of you for good. Yeah, what happened to you, Rudy? Yeah, you go and tackle the quarterback in that one play for Notre Dame and this is what you turned into? Pretty sad. It's sad. I'm sad to say that such incidents are part of everyday life in Ul'dah. Someone in financial difficulty sees a moneylender as the answer to their woes, like an oasis in the desert, but it's only a mirage, an illusion of salvation leading them into even greater debt. Then again, many debtors will borrow money without any intention of paying it back, relying on an endless stream of short-term solutions. I can only hope that those who look upon my art will remember the words of the Sultana and seek to help rather than exploit one another. Those two chaps you saw arguing just now would benefit from it, I'm sure. You know, Aston wasn't always like that. He picked me up when I was down more times than I can count. We both grew up on the streets of Uldar with no one to turn to but each other. The only reason I'm even here today, making a living as an artist, of all things, is because of Aston and his talent for business. With a few words and a couple of handshakes, he could turn a gill into a gold mine. And then. But as the years passed, it became an obsession. No matter how much coin he made, it was never enough. I wish he'd realize there's more to life than personal gain, but nothing I say gets through to him. That's part of the reason why I turned to stained glass art in the first place. It can express my inner thoughts far better than words ever could. Well, my words, at any rate. Yeah, so what do we do about it? Oh goodness, I do apologize. You must think I'm an awful ball to rope you into helping only to bombard you with complaints and sob stories. But enough of that. It's high time I returned to the exhibition and prepared for the arrival of the Minstrel. And so let's go ahead and follow him. Off we go back to the other side of the city. Yeah, it'll obviously be pretty busy by the time we get there. So how are all of you guys here this evening as we're making our way back over to the stained glass exhibition? So as we make our way there... Yeah, where are you in the midst of all this? And also, what happened to your stained glass? Yeah, Ben, what happened? Oh, there you are. I hate to say this, but we've run into a slight problem, and by slight problem, I actually mean rather a huge catastrophe. Want to take a guess at what happened? It's so huge, in fact, I need a moment to compose myself. While I'm loath to impose on you any further, I have a feeling I may need your help again, or at least some moral support. So we'll take our 3,360 experience points and 289 gil. Because, yeah, we're not done yet. Gotta speak with Jaban again for the next quest entitled Glass from the Past. Jaban Tia's heart is not the only thing that is broken. Alright, enough panicking. It's time for decisive action. While we were out distributing flyers, these children were a little overzealous when it came to admiring my artwork. It seems they were unaware of the look but don't touch rule that normally applies to these things, and well, it fell on the floor and shattered. Yeah, kind of one of those things where you had a feeling that when it comes to glass, we could see that coming from a mile away. So what do we do? Yeah, we have a random chocobo popping up who for some reason is happy about this. What will you say? This calls for 6 of the best. No, the punishment be more severe. Or stage a play based on scene and have Shinji play the role of Nanamo, which is hilarious when you think about it. But no, they must be punished! Not the first thought that crossed my mind, I must admit. The recital is due to begin any moment now, so the only viable option is to repair the smashed pane as best we can. I think that with a little adhesive here and there, the spectators will hardly notice the cracks. Unfortunately, I don't have any to hand at present. While I run off to fetch some bonding ancient from the Alchemist Guild, perhaps you could try piecing the book and glass back together. Don't worry, I'll show you how it's done. So yeah, we actually have to take care of that ourselves. Are you ready to begin? So yeah, he'll give us the frame and the shards. So the following controls can be used to repair the stained glass. Move with left to right, select and place pieces, and cancel selections. So let's go and fade over to the piece itself. So some of the pieces are still showing on the outside of the frame to kind of give you a guide. But what also already helps is the fact that a lot of the pieces have edges that are flat that can also be very useful. Yeah, so that in itself can be very useful for doing this. Just need to make sure I find the ends first. And this one conveniently slots in. And then this one goes in the corner. Yeah, I'm trying to remember everything that goes where it needs to go. Because there's still a couple of flat pieces that are out there. Oh, come on, pick the piece up. Yeah, I know I don't want to cut my hands, but still we gotta help the guy out. Yeah, also spoiler alert for those of you who have not done this puzzle yet. Yeah, kind of ruining the aspect of it for some of you. Yeah, there's our flat. And we can... Yeah, I've only done this a couple of times, so I'll need to make sure that I know where everything goes. And there we go. And there it is. We got it. Yeah, and Jaben is back with the stuff that he needed.
Yes, that's perfect. With a few dabs of adhesive, it'll be as good as new. Well, almost. It should certainly suffice for the time being, though.
Yeah, especially as people are preparing to come around, so the piece is now back up on the wall. Yeah, hopefully we can secure it a little better this time.
All's well that ends well, yes. The children were beside themselves with the way, but now there's the light as I am.
Yeah, there they are. I was honestly expecting Lalafels here. Because as you may have noticed, that picture is consisting solely of Lalafels. So I'd have figured they would have been drawn to a lot more than some of the other kids would have. Yeah, what's wrong there, Jaben?
Oh, just a moment of nostalgia. I know from first-hand experience that moment of horror that comes when breaking an expensive piece of glass. A few years ago, I was helping Austin with one of his ventures as an art dealer. I was in desperate need of gills, so he hired me to transport a few pieces. That was when I dropped a case containing some valuable stained glass, and I'll never forget the awful sound it made. But rather than curse me for my clumsiness or fret over the money it had cost him, his only concern was whether I'd cut myself on any of the
Yeah, gotta love when dinner says hello, right?
But rather than curse me for my clumsiness or fret over the money it had cost him, his only concern was whether I cut myself on any of the shards. So you see, that's why I don't blame the children for the little misadventure. I suppose I'm following Aston's example. Actually, there's one more favor I'd like to ask of you.
And what would that be?
I think if Aston were here to see my stained glass, it might remind him of the days when things were more important to him than money. Of course, I've tried various approaches in the past, and most of what I say to him goes in one ear and out the other. But if it were to come from someone else, such as your good self, he might be more inclined to listen. Would you mind having a word with him?
Alright then, I'll help you out with that too.
You're too kind. Perhaps you could start by handing him this flyer and going from there. I think he's in the quicksand where he carries out much of his business. His clients tend to be a bit more malleable when they're in their cups, it seems. Anyway, if you could rouse his interest in the festivities, we'll leave the rest to him.
Alright. And away we go.
So
So, over to the Quicksands, over to the Adventurers Guild, and we'll see how he's doing. Yeah, there you are, Rudy. I remember you. Ben's assistant, yes? Or maybe he's yours. Either way, I appreciate you looking out for him. He needs all the help he can get. Though I must say, if you've got something that requires my attention, I'd rather you keep it brief. Words aren't necessary here. Just that you take a look at this. Yes, I know all about Ben's exhibit, thank you. Keeping my ear to the ground as I do, there's little that goes on in all that escapes my notice. So why did he send you to advertise it to me? Well, he wants to remind me of the good old days. I might have guessed it would be something as soppy as that. Lots changed since then, but he's still the same daft sort he's always been. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing, mind you. It's his sentimental side that allows him to create such evocative works of art. But I always thought that if he tried to make a living out of it, he'd lose the very essence of what makes his pieces so special in the first place. Rather than expressing himself, he'd have to ponder the taste of the wealthy but fickle class to turn a profit. That's why I wanted to earn enough for the both of us so he'd be free to pursue his dreams. While he doesn't need me to pay for his bed and board anymore, I'm still around to help him if he falls on hard times. And just to make it perfectly clear, it's not that I don't want to attend the exhibition. I decided not to go because if people were to think that Ben is associated with a moneylender like me, it would ruin his good reputation. But if he insists that I go, perhaps I can make an appearance without drawing too much attention. Tell him we'll think about it, would you? Very well. And so he goes back to chilling on against the wall. And so we'll let Jabin know about it. And music change. Yeah, he's still in here somewhere. So what did he say? Well, he told you this. I'll just have to wait and see. Whatever the outcome, I'm grateful for all you've done, and I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear I've saved you the perfect spot from which to view the event. And so, later that night... Yeah, those kids are back, yeah. And their parents are here to stop them from doing anything too reckless. And now it's time for the annual appearance of the Wandering Minstrel. Citizens Woola, my words be transported to the days before the calamity, a time when all hope seemed lost. As the lesser moon hung low in the city, a wave of terror washed over this fair city, turning neighbour against neighbour, brother against brother. There, in the midst of chaos, she stood defiantly. And so our tale begins. Hearken now to the Sultana's 7. And so now he performs for the people all in the crowd. And then when it's all over, and everyone's on their way. Astonishing! I could see the events of that fateful day in my mind's eye as vividly as I see you now. Such a profoundly moving performance would surely have touched the hearts of everyone in attendance. Yeah, and maybe even Aston's? Aston, you came after all! An artist you may be, but subtle you are not. Now is not the time to take from your neighbour, but to offer him the hand of succour. Yeah. A message to all of Ordal, I'm sure, but also one meant specifically for me. I have to admit the Sultana made a good point and it still stands to this day. Maybe it's time I thought about earning an honest living. Oh, is that so? I knew you'd come around sooner or later. And Austin, I can take care of myself now, so you needn't go to such lengths to support me. I'm glad to hear it, but let's get one thing straight. I didn't become a moneylender just to cover your expenses while you carved out your career as an artist. I just didn't want you to compromise your ideals and the quality of your work for the sake of keeping a roof over your head. Now you can concentrate on doing what you do best, bringing joy to people through your art. As for me, I should find a better use for my skills. Perhaps I could go back to being an art dealer. That way, you can create whatever works you please while I seek out potential buyers.
It certainly beats making commission pieces for some pretentious buffoon. You're suggesting we go into business together?
Perhaps a good idea as the new day arrives.
Yes, unless you have any objections to working with a very recently reformed moneylender. Of course not, and I know just where to start, producing more paints featuring the Sultana and her 7 trusty followers. Imagine the streets of Ordar lined with stained glass depicting its illustrious history. The sparkling jewel of the desert will shine brighter than ever.
It looks like you two are hitting it off well again.
This is more than I could have dreamed of. Of course, none of this would have been possible without your kindness, Shinji. You probably hear effusive words of praise quite often in your line of work, but I sincerely mean it. Thank you for all you've done. Oh, and there was one other thing I meant to tell you. The Wandering Minstrel was wondering if he could have a word with you. In fact, he has a present of souls to give you. He should be somewhere nearby. Best of luck finding him.
Yeah. At the end of the Rising, said Wandering Minstrel always wants to give us a few words as he performs on his harp, takes us to some world where it's not a Eorzea and it's something completely different. So, yeah. He's around over here.
Oh, you're almost on New World. Jibentia speaks very highly of not only your skill at piecing together broken glass, but also of your loyalty and compassion. Your virtues are many and varied indeed.
Yes, indeed they are.
Were it not for your contribution, the festival would have been without its centerpiece. My accompaniment of song was not but a garnish to the fine dish that was our mutual friend's glorious work of art. Perhaps you will allow me to express my gratitude with another piece I have composed.
You always do there, Wandering Minstrel. And so, as you've always done, take to your harp, perform a simple strum of it, and take us on a journey with the echo. So, where do we end up this time? Yeah, we're familiar with this place. We've been here a few times with our various characters, but what's Dalamud doing here? Yeah, shows up in the Rising for the very first time. Yeah, we should do something about this.
Welcome, Warrior of Light, or should I call you Warrior of Darkness? You needn't be alarmed by these strange surroundings.
Yeah, who goes there? Well, as so happens, it's our band of Lalafels. The leaders of the Thaumaturgus Guild, Pippin and Papashan, along with them. Along with another guy who we also know very well. But they're not alone. Because even the Sultana came to say hello. And surrounded by these 8 Lalafels, we are once again reunited with a familiar face. Hey there, Ichigo, welcome to the stream, glad to have you with us.
This is a world that exists outside your reality. Could it be a dream? A fright, a fancy conjured by a weary mind? Perhaps, or perhaps not.
Yeah. Hey there again, Yoshi P.
It is an honor to be reunited with you in this world between worlds. I've been following your adventures with great interest. Your travels have taken you to lands far and wide, and you have encountered people from all walks of life, each with their own ideals, hopes, and dreams. As time flows onward in a never-ending spiral, the course of history is guided by mortal hands. Though our existence be brief, our deeds echo through eternity. 7 years have passed since the Resa moon descended. 7 years since mankind rose from the ashes. 'Twas a spectacle none shall ever forget, and that they live to tell the tale is cause for both celebration and reflection. When we cast our minds back, it is not sorrow that fills our hearts, but joy, for we've been afforded a second chance that we might learn from the lessons of the past. As we set forth toward new horizons, those of the thirst for adventure will lead the way. While there may be hardships and strife on the road ahead, There is no obstacle we cannot overcome if we believe in ourselves and each other. Countless kindred spirits share our journey, and it is through mutual respect and understanding that we may create a better world. The future is what we make it, by our words and deeds, and we will forever be at your side, brave adventurer. You have our undying gratitude, now and always. As he provides us with a round of applause, and so do the other Lalafels too. The time has come for this vision to end. Time for your eyes to open from this waking dream. Ever will we be watching over you. Guide the realm onto peace and happiness. Warrior of right and darkness both. Till next we meet. Yeah, until we see you again next year. Yeah, hey there, Ichigo, welcome to the stream, glad to have you with us. Hello, you're returned. Pray tell, are you left with pleasant memories, fleeting though maybe they may be? Yeah, I guess there were. Not as well, for such visions are wont to fail or too quickly as the morning dew in the light of the rising sun. Mayhap another of my verses would make a suitable gift ere we part. See what you do best. In the wake of calamity, light descends once more to illuminate a world reborn, risen from fires of war. 'Neath the eyes of heaven, deception crumbles to dust. Those divided by malice, united by bonds of trust. On fields awash in crimson, battle raged far and wide. In the name of liberty, the courageous few turn the tide. On to a distant realm, drowned in radiance unrelenting, strides forth the harbinger of night, iron will unbending. And of course, no sooner does he finish than nighttime comes around, and we are treated to the annual Rising Fireworks display. For the sake of their loved ones, there are those who take to the battlefield, and yet those who remain behind have their roles to play. Protect us and the protected. Provide us and the provided for. Principles upon which every nation is built. It is the duty of those who rule to ensure that these elements are kept in balance, even if they must face great peril. The words of the Sultana ring as true in the here and now as they did on that fateful day. May each of us take them to heart as we face the new dawn as one. And so, as is custom with every rising, the camera pans back to see the conclusion of this display being shown off. Yeah, they went back to a more traditional climax for it this time around. And so with that, we'll take our 3,360 experience points, plus 2 new items. The Wind-Up Ardbert. What he lacks in size, he makes up for in heart, and his disproportionately large jacks. And our very own piece of the Sultana's 7. A faithful recreation of the stained glass artwork that adorned the main stage at Ul'dah's Rising Festival. The historic moment when Nanamo Ul'Namo and her 7 most trusted followers confronted a baying crowd and restored peace to the city he's captured in all its glory. For aesthetic reasons, however, the artist has wisely chosen not to include the angry mob. I only wonder why. Yeah, one can only wonder. You also unlocked the Jigsaw Puzzle minigame. Open the toy chest in any in-room to try this activity. And on top of that, we earned the achievement Magnificent 7. Obviously referring to the Sultana's 7 artwork. And that's quite the strut that you got there, Wandering Minstrel. Yeah, not only does he play the harp pretty well, but he's also got quite the step to him.